So we need to be able to add and subtract fractions. So the only way that we can add and subtract a fraction is when the bottom numbers, the denominator, are the same. So we need to first of all change the fractions to make the denominators the same, and then we can start to add and subtract them. So to make the denominators the same, you can either times them together or you can look for a different lowest common multiple. So we can look for those which are 12. So I know that I need to change them both so that they're out of 12. So if I think of this one, the first fraction going out of 12, then I've times the denominator by 3, and therefore I need to do the same to the top, so it would be 9 out of 12. When I look at the second one, I've times the denominator by 4, so I need to do the same to the top, and therefore it's 8. So I've got 9/12 plus 8/12. And now that they're the same part, I can just add them together. So I have 9 plus 8, which is 17 over 12. And I should change that to a mixed number. At the moment, it's top heavy. So the top number, the numerator, is bigger than the bottom number, the denominator. And therefore, I can fit one whole in. So that would be 12 out of 12. And then I've still got left 5/12. So it's one whole plus 5/12 left over. So on this one, I need to get the denominators the same. So the denominators could both be out of 35. So for the first fraction, I've done 5 to make 35 is times 7. For the second one, to go from 7 to 35, I've timesed by 5, and therefore 4 times 7, so the top part, 4 times 7, which is 28, and then for the second fraction, I've got 3 times the 5, which is going to be 15, so it gives me 28 out of 35 plus 15 out of 35, and that's going to give me 43 out of 35. And I can change that again into a top heavy fraction, so 1, and then I've still got left over 8/35. This one is exactly the same, it's just that it's a subtraction, so we can change them both out of 20, and then at the end I'm subtracting them. So the first fraction I've times by 4, so for the numerator, the top number, 2 times 4 is 8. And then for the second one, I've times by 5, so 1 times 5 is 5. And therefore, I'm left with 3 out of 20. When you're multiplying and dividing fractions, it's even easier. So if I had 4/5 times by 2/3, all you have to do is multiply the top numbers and then multiply the bottom numbers. So that would be 4 times 2 is 8, over 5 times 3 is 15. If you're dividing, so if you had 2/3 times by 4/5, then we can't divide. So if you're dividing, then you can't just divide these two fractions together. We need to change it to a times, but by doing that, we're flipping this one upside down, so it becomes a reciprocal. So dividing by a fraction is the same as timesing by the reciprocal. So we can write that that's the same as 2/3 times, and then I've flipped the second one only upside down, and that therefore gives me a times 1 like we just did. 2 times 5 is 10, 3 times 4 is 12.